Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to give my presentation on sustainable wastewater management in South Australia. And then uh, this presentation is a paper co-written by Lehman, Rita Yiman Lee, Simon Beecham, and also Teo Kim Kwon from University of South Australia. And I myself come from Hong Kong Share University. And then this is actually a presentation for the AHFE conference in 2021. So before we talk about like wastewater management, so we have to have like a basic background information about like the current state of our water problem. So in recent years, the share of surface water from the major water sources has fallen, and then it has put enormous pressure on water supplies for drinking, irrigation, and other purposes. So shrinking water resources and the increased cost of water has driven residents to conserve water. Most likely is that by the time we talk about like why people would like to conserve water, is because it actually is just like the rising cost in using water, even though it's still relatively cheap as compared to other natural resources. So at the same time, the changes in water chemical properties due to accumulation of excessive nutrients during biological, chemical, and physical processes are causing water quality problems, and therefore waste control is actually crucial. What we have seen is that most likely, if you have seen like the recent India story, where there are a lot of the crops that they flow along the River Ganges, then you may find that well, actually that water problem is actually harming, probably is harming our physical lives, because actually there are so much water resources that they are polluted because of like human activities. So with the research method that we try to interview wastewater and water management professionals, environment protection policymakers, and two residents groups. So these three groups of the people, they are provided the primary sources of information for this paper, and then offer some of the in-depth views of the wastewater and also stormwater management. So households were also interviewed to understand the SA's, the South Australians residents' current water usage behavior, and then we try to improve the sustainability of water use in Australia. And then so we firstly interview some of the professional groups, because they are the groups for which that they have abundant information about like the water that we have, and then so that that we will know like what is this, currently that is happening in South Australia. So the comment is that when we try to compare the Australian water usage as compared to other countries, the South Australian residents consume more water than some other countries. So they actually also provide some of the solutions, the viable solutions for which that they can like deal with this water issue. So they indicated that the solutions for the increased demand for water resources, like for example, using more sustainable destination plans, like using newer forward osmosis technologies to increase the water supply for major cities, as well as like improving and upgrading the pumping system for water supply in major cities. They have to supply extra water resources for major cities between like 40 to 50%. And then they have also mentioned one thing I think is very uh, noteworthy. That is like future buildings should be installed with the two types of plumbing, that is both the potable water and also recycled water. Actually, I think a lot of us that we may not have aware of the usage of the recycled water, for which it can like help us to like make it much more sustainable water uses, because there's so much water. Like for example, like water plant for like planting the plants, etc. That it that we actually have a lot of the water for which that we should be like recycled, because it is like they are still clean for each like rainwater, etc. That it should be like recycled. So for the government authorities interviewees group, it's also mentioned that there is sometimes difficulty in obtaining funding from the government to implement sustainable wastewater and water policies. For the government authorities groups perspective, they highlight the importance of like uh, that is like the mainly they will talk about like those things like wastewater. They will talk about like funding issues. No funding, then they cannot do anything on that. And then future development trends in wastewater and also water management to focus on reusing the treated wastewater sources for like long potable uses, reducing the treated wastewater discharge into the oceans and rivers, and identify better solutions for water sustainability and also reuse. And then all these actually are linked to like source of funding. The improvement of the policies in wastewater mainly focus on technical perspectives like reusing treated wastewater resources, and therefore it is suggested that the water and also wastewater policies should be made more interpretable for the public. Because actually, if you talk about like all the professional language, like professional words, terms, general public cannot understand. However, the difficulty of implementing these improvements is that the government requires external funding for investment in like wastewater management. And then we also have interview like 10 residents from different districts in South Australia, which includes like Elizabeth, Adelaide Apartment Complex, Kingwood Hill Street, Rundle Moor, etc., etc. So we interview them about like water use behavior, also reuse of the water, wastewater. So you can see that actually majority of them they do not reuse like sink or basin water, and only like one mentioned that they have reused a sink or basin water, and then running the dishwater only with the full load, it is like uh, most of them say yes to that, and then the minutes of taking the shower is like some of them they are pretty long, like interview G is like 20 to 40, and while the remaining others are just like 5 minutes and more like 5 to 10 minutes or so. And then so actually it affects the, of course it affects the water usage for the time that they try to take a shower, and then they try to close the tap during like the teeth brushing. Yes, majority of them have done so, and so as I adjust the laundry water to like match those size, something like this. However, do they really use the laundry water? The answer is like no for majority as well. So you see, actually there are still a lot of room for which that we can try to reuse water, change the habit. The habits of using stormwater, I majority of think that they are like either they do not answer this question or they feel that it's like acceptable, and then stormwater we used, and then well most of them they have got the stormwater we used actually, and then but some of them they say but some of them they say no to this question. Water efficiency campaign is also something for which like it is a kind of like campaign activity which can change the mindset of the peoples, so that they you can see that actually majority, however, they have not participated in any of the water efficiency campaign in South Australia, and then however they and then if they are also asked whether or not they are willing to let the children to participate in water efficiency campaign. And then what you have seen is that majority just say no or they have not answered this question. So you see it's like they have got like they are quite inactive in like participating in the water efficiency campaign for the children. However, children is actually the next generation. And water efficiency campaign help people to reduce the water campaign so that it's just like yes, a lot of them they say that it can help people to reduce water consumption. So to conclude, South Australian residents generally comply with the government recommended water restrictions and conservation measures. However, they still consume water at a higher rate than most of the other countries. And the solution is actually to change the behaviors by using media, public resources, more campaigns, and educational programs about water consumption. Because we can see actually they have got a lot of them they have not participated in campaigns, and then children of course they have not joined because the children by the time they is like asking whether or not that they are willing to let the children to join, majority say no. So you see that we still have a very large room on this kind of activities to be promoted. And then current wastewater reuse technology is still inefficient to solve all the microbiological contamination problems associated with the domestic wastewater. So it means that well, we still have got a large room to like for improvement on this one. And in terms of using reusing grey water to protect the natural environment, recent advances in water treatment technologies in South Australia can reduce the microbiological content and sanitation for non-potable uses, and promoting the reuse of the grey water will reduce a large amount of wastewater discharge into the natural environment. So current policies for the wastewater management are generally insufficient to control wastewater production. A further improvement is required to upgrade the water policies in order to promote the grey water recycling system. However, there are still a large amounts of wastewater needlessly discharged into like the receiving water. So therefore, it is actually necessary to improve the wastewater treatment process and to provide a comprehensive explanation to the general public on the what types of water that is fit for purpose, for which that we can fit for like for example recycling, like stormwater recycling, and the government should also mandate the water sensitive urban design requirements to improve the wastewater management in South Australia. So, end of the presentation for today. So, for further details, please feel free to contact Dr. Rita E. Manley of Hong Kong Share University. Thank you very much. So, here is the end of my presentation. Thank you.